Locker Room, with all the sports news you need, live.
Hello, very good afternoon to you. Welcome to your Sunday edition of the Locker Room. And I don't know about you guys, but I have just defrosted after yesterday's action as well. I think the main headline to take away from the game yesterday was, and I've been waiting to say this all night, last night, Reegan, by the way, that all the games went ahead at different times. And also we had a linesman that didn't know what way to put on the shorts. Anyway, we're here until 5 o'clock tonight, joined by Alastair and Reegan, as always, and Graham, if he can wipe away the snow from his Wi-Fi, he'll be on very soon. This is the first show we've actually dug on a Sunday that there's not been any football on, because there's always been football on a Sunday. But anyway, there's plenty to look back on yesterday. There's women's football action today, and there is rugby action as well. I'll just bring you up to speed on that before we do. Scotland is winning 17-6 against Australia at Murrayfield. So a bit of a surprising score there. But we'll keep you up to date on that. Before we bring in the guys, let me just round up the women's action from today. Final score: Aberdeen 0, Hearts 2, Glasgow City 6, Spartans 0. Half-time Hibs against Packet Thistle, it's 1 each. And the 4 o'clock kickoffs, Motherwell against Queen's Park, and Rangers Dundee United. And let's hope the Dundee United team bus gets down in time for that one. And Celtic and Minclose game is at 4:30 as well. Guys, how are you?
Doing great, Michael. Doing great. It was great to be on for the VAR show on Wednesday night with the two ex-referees. So no, it's good to be back on again. Aye.
And I'll tell you, a bit disappointed that you never went to the game yesterday, but Johnson won.
Yeah, I mean, from that point of view, yes, I'm extremely happy because it hasn't happened for quite a few weeks, and the fact that I couldn't get there was really quite annoying, because I'm sure we'll talk about it later on, but the weather yesterday was dreadful, and I took a lot of time in the morning to think about, will I go, will I not go? I looked at some of the pictures. I think I posted some in our group chat of the road, the A71, which is the one I go along, basically covered in snow at Straven. You saw the pictures at Broxton of the Stennismuir team. Broxton's obviously in the way at McDermott, just as you get into Perth. They're all going to Terrybank Inn, which is a very sensible thing to do. I was in touch with Colin McCready, who's obviously a big Saints fan, you know, the Taggart actor. He's in Glasgow. He was going to go through because he was on food bank duty. He couldn't go either. And there was loads of people in the same boat, not just, you know, our club's fans, but fans of all clubs just couldn't get their games because the weather was so bad.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I suppose that all the clubs did well to get all the games on, but the one surprising game that went ahead at 3 o'clock, Graham, was Ross County against Motherwell, and I thought that game would be called off right away.
Yeah, looking at the pictures last night, it didn't look the best, but you've got to say fair play to everybody involved at all the clubs that managed to get all these games on. I think I listened to Stephen Robinson on the radio yesterday, and he basically said about the St Mirren game, about 2 hours before that, looked like that game was going to be off. So fair play to all the folk that managed to get these games on. And it's a big win for Ross County as well yesterday.
Get your comments coming in. We're on Facebook and we're on X as well. And also, you can give us a wee follow on Twitter. We're at the Locker Room Indie on Twitter. Well, sorry, I should stop saying that. X as well. Or some people might say Blue Sky now, because a lot of people have moved over to Blue Sky. I don't know if it's a blue sky outside, but it's certainly not a nice day outside. I don't know. I'm trying to be funny here, but so really working. I'm trying to be funny actually to help my cold, but obviously that's not going away anyway. Anyway, let's go on with the football action, and it was spread all over the place like wildfire yesterday. Oh, sorry, wild snow. And we'll begin the game at Tynecastle, Graham. I'm sorry to bring this up, but Hearts 1, Celtic 4. And I suppose, Graham, that it was a game of two halves. But again, the old saying on football is, if you don't take your chance, you don't deserve to win the game. In Hearts, I get about 3 or 4 brilliant chances in the first half.
Yeah, first half I was very happy. I thought we played some decent stuff. We were the better team. Craig Gordon's not the save to make. But against teams like Celtic, you've got to take your chances. We just didn't do it with a chance in the first couple of minutes. Blair Spittle, I think, should do better. Doesn't connect properly. You've got Lauren Shankland, who's just going through such a horrendous spell just now, where he's just not able to buy a goal just now. But the first half was really good. I thought we played really well. We pressed really high. We were making it difficult for Celtic. And the first half ended, I thought, we could be a couple of goals up here. I was quite happy with what we were doing. But then second half, it was the same as Heidenheim. Plenty of chances, didn't take them. And then second half, it's a different story. Celtic basically killed the game in a 5-minute spell with the goals from Kyogo and Kuhn. And after that, it's a case of how many. But for Craig Gordon, we could have got a couple more. I was delighted for Musa to get his goal. Really good finish as well. But yeah, it was another game that we've played well in spells, but we've just not been clinical enough. And Celtic are ruthless. They don't have to play that well to win these games. You look at the Kilmarnock game before the break. They could have lost that game quite comfortably, but ended up winning it. And that's just what Celtic do. And I think the worry for everyone else, I just don't see Celtic losing a game this season. And I think they'll go unbeaten. I think they've got enough quality on that side. And for me, it's a one-horse title race. As much as Aberdeen have done well, it's a one-horse race. Celtic will win the league comfortably now.
Good afternoon to Paul Donaldson. I like to see you're committed to the show, by the way. You're out and about this afternoon and not able to watch the show. I know it's not good enough. Send your email the next time you're not able to watch the show. I'm not happy about that at all. But he was saying about the Aberdeen performance yesterday. And we'll go on to Aberdeen later on. By the way, Paul, I'm only kidding on, but yeah, send me an email. It'll be quite nice of you to do that. From a Celtic point of view, Reegan, it's always difficult coming back after a kind of international break for Celtic to start up again. They weren't at the races in the first half, but I mean, Brendan Rodgers must have sent out a message at half time.
I think he just put more people into midfield. I thought Rio was very instrumental in the second half as well. But that second goal, I don't know what you guys think, but I thought it was just absolutely brilliant. I didn't think he was going to actually score it for there, but it was just brilliant to see him score like that, Graham. I know it's probably not a good thing for you, but I just thought Celtic were very great to watch second half. And I think in terms of that, I mean, that's a kind of champions sort of play, because first half Celtic won in the game, but it was important that they stayed in 0-0, because if that's Rangers or if it's Aberdeen, I think we're saying, right, well, they probably go in maybe 1 or 2 goals behind, but Celtic stayed in there and they played very well. So I think it's just so important now. But I think also Brendan Rodgers has been to 2 difficult places in the last 2 weeks: Rugby Park and Tynecastle, and these are 2 places that Rangers dropped points over this season, and that's the big difference makers. Of course, people always say it'll come down to the Rangers and Celtic matches, but it also comes down to are Rangers able to go away to Rugby Park? Are they able to go away to Tynecastle? And Celtic are able to do that, and I totally agree with Graham. I know Aberdeen's got a match on Tuesday night, when they take on, I think they go to Easter Road, Graham, and I think there's probably no better time to go to Easter Road, as we'll get on to later. But I think it's just typical football as well because, I mean, people say there's no better time to go to Easter Road, but also there's got to be one time where they actually decide to turn up. So if you're Aberdeen as well, I mean, and then Aberdeen and Celtic play again next midweek. So I think Aberdeen is for it's so important that they win their next two matches because I expect Celtic to beat Ross County on Saturday, Celtic Park. So Aberdeen don't want to go in that match being 9 points behind. So they need to go in and win these next two matches, Graham.
Yeah, and I think they will. I mean, I know we'll get to Aberdeen shortly, but I just think that I can't see anybody stopping Celtic. I think they'll end up winning the league by about 20 points. I generally do. They've just got so much quality. And you look at the players they're bringing off the bench. You know, Adam Eder comes on, scores 2. I know one's a penalty, but that's the quality you're bringing on. We're bringing on guys like George Grant, who is an absolute imposter. Doesn't do us wear a heart shirt at all. He's hopeless. So, yeah, that just goes to show the quality that Celtic have got to bring on. And when they step it up, they are just so good. I mean, Hatate's second half was just a different player from the first half, and it's no team in Scotland can compete with that. It's impossible to cope with that. When Celtic step it up, doesn't matter what you do. They've just got that much quality. And I thought what we did first half was we stopped McGregor and Hatate dominating the ball. Second half, we didn't do that. And if you allow good players to dominate games like that, then that's what will happen.
Alastair, James makes a comment on the chat there on YouTube. Thanks for watching, James. He said Celtic were very poor in the first half, but a big improvement in the second half. Unfortunately, Hearts really struggle. Shankland ain't on scoring form. Is that a problem for the rest of the league, Alastair, that Celtic were poor in the first half? Hearts had brilliant chances, maybe could go on 2-0 up at half time or even 1-0 up, and then second half it was a totally different game.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't say Celtic were very poor. I mean, in relative terms, they were poor compared to what they can be, but they weren't very poor. If they were very poor, they'd have been 2 or 3 down. And yes, Hearts did create chances, and let's be realistic, on a normal day, you're not going to score all of them unless you really get lucky. So from that point of view, I think Spittle's one in particular, they could have done better with. If you go in 1-0 up, you've got something to hang on to. The moment you go 1 behind against Celtic, everybody's heads drop. You know, even if it's not evident, but you can just see the players wilting, and then you lose the second one, game over. You're not going to come back from 2-0 down against Celtic. So from that point of view, I think everything everybody said is exactly right. Celtic are going to win the league at a canter. I'm not a gambling man, or very rarely, but I would imagine the bookies will be paying out on their bets by Christmas if they're not already. I think I've said on the show previously, you'd probably get better odds if you asked, bookie for price on Celtic winning and maybe Falkirk winning by April or something. That might be quite an interesting one. But just now, it's a one-horse race. And to be honest, the other horses are actually running in the race that's half an hour later. It's not going to change for a year or two. Is that good for Scottish football? Don't think it is. If you're a Celtic fan, you don't care. But if you're a fan of every other club, it's quite frankly tedious getting gubbed 4-0 or 5-0 or 6-0 as happened to us or Aberdeen. I don't think that's good for Scottish football.
I don't think it's good for Scottish football, but what I do think is Celtic are now making a mark in European football as well, Alastair, which Brendan Rodgers wants as well. So I think the big marker for Celtic now is they'll be judged on European football as well.
No, you're absolutely you're right, Reegan. And let's be honest, if it was Hearts, which is more likely, or my team, which is less likely, who were doing this, then we'd be absolutely thrilled. We'd be really chuffed, and we'd be saying exactly the same thing. And actually, it's good for this coefficient, all that kind of stuff, if we can get Celtic or any team winning in Europe. And we saw the performance in the last game; they were brilliant, absolutely superb. So I think that again is indicative of where Scottish football is. We've got one team which can compete. It's not going to be competing at the very top levels in European football, but at least it can compete just now. The rest of them, the ones who are third and fourth, they get a couple of games in the summer and that's it over. And then maybe Rangers, maybe Aberdeen, if they qualify this year, might possibly get to league stage or something a bit later on. It comes back to, is it glass half full or half empty? If you're a Celtic fan, it's very much just about full to the brim. If you're a fan of any other club, it's pretty much well past the half pint mark, you know.
Graham, James makes a good point here on YouTube. He says, I wonder what the odds would be for both Hearts and Hibs to get relegated. I was actually thinking about this last night when I was watching the Hearts game, Graham, and also the Hibs game as well. But I don't know if you was it about 4 or 5 seasons ago, Dundee United and Dundee was involved in a playoff, and Dundee United went down.
Yeah, I don't think Hearts will go down. Now, obviously, I'm going to be biased and say that, but I genuinely think since Critchley's come in, I have seen an identity and a style of football that I don't really see with David Gray in charge at Hibs. I think we'll get out of this. Now, whether we finish top 6, maybe doubtful, but if we can't finish, and no disrespect to the teams, but if we can't finish with teams like St Johnstone and Ross County, we deserve to go down. But I don't think we'll go down. I think Critchley has an identity. The issue that we've got, as I've mentioned before, is we're not taking our chances. We've got a striker that's not scoring goals. I think January is going to be massive. We need I don't think it'll be a massive clear, but we have to bring in at least 4 or 5 players, especially in the forward area, because we're not scoring enough goals. I can see what he wants to do. He wants to press really high, which is good, but Shanklin doesn't really do that. But I can see what he's trying to do. So I don't think Hearts will go down. I think we've got winnable fixtures coming up. You know, we don't now play Celtic till March. We don't play Rangers till February. We've got winnable games coming up, especially at home. So I think we'll be okay. I think Hibs, if they stick with David Gray, they'll go down because they're not a good side with David Gray in charge. So I think we'll be fine, but Hibs, on the other hand, could be in massive trouble.
Sorry, Graham, I was going to ask you, have Hearts got the money to bring in players? Because did they not bring about 9? Naismith not saying about 9 players? That's a lot in your wage bill.
Yeah, well, we've got money from the foundation at Hearts. We've got money for European football, so there is money there. And also, we're going to hopefully get this investment, Tony Bloom, as well, if he comes in. So there is money there, but I think we'll have to let go 4 or 5. Barry Mackay has to go. George Grant has to go. There might be 2 or 3 others.
Boyce as well, because Boyce doesn't even got the partner again.
Yeah, Liam Boyce as well. I mean, I don't understand, and I said this at the time, I don't understand why Stephen Naismith thought we didn't need another striker in the summer, because that was pretty obvious to me and everyone else. So that's, Critchley's having to work with what he's got. I think there is still a good squad there, but you've got to take your chances when they come along, and we are missing far too many of these. Shanklin could have had 3 yesterday. There was one moment in the second half at 2-0 down where last season he would have shot, but he tried to pass it to Cammy Devlin. Yeah. Cammy Devlin's not a goal scorer. Take the shot yourself, but I think that just goes to show how poor Shanklin's playing just now that he passes that kind of chance up. He's not confident, and it's showing. And right now, as difficult as this is, I'd be dropping him. I'd maybe start Musa and drop Shanklin because he's not performing.
That chance Spittle had in the first half, Graham, basically that was a pass back to the goalkeeper, basically. But see, when you see it again, he had time to cut inside even more, and I don't know why he kind of half kicked the shot right away.
I don't think he knows how much time he's got. It's actually a really good ball from Shanklin as well, but I think he maybe could take another touch and go in. But it's one of these ones, if he catches it properly, maybe he scores, but he doesn't catch it at all. And it felt like a bit of deja vu from the Heidenheim game. So many chances, don't take them. Second half, different performance. But again, we're getting into these positions. We are creating chances, but you've got to take them. And I think for us to have had any chance yesterday, we had to score first. We did. As soon as Kyogo scores, it's a case of, right, here we go. I've seen this movie before. It wasn't really a shock.
I think as well, Reegan, if teams want to beat Celtic, especially on their own back door, like Hearts had a brilliant chance last night, I don't think I know what Graham's saying, like taking the league 1-0 at half time, but I don't think 1-0 is enough. 2-0 maybe.
Especially because the fire people they've got off the bench. Look at the bench last night. Bernardo, Ida, Valle from Barcelona, Bernardo, so many quality players.
And obviously you've got Forrest as well, the old man.
Yeah, I thought Forrest, he popped on the game like when I thought he was great when he came on. I don't know if you guys seen, but I seen Palmer was making a lot of noises in social media last night. So I don't think he'll be there after January. He put up saying he was watching a different match from the Celtic game. So I don't know if he's putting a statement out there to Brendan Rodgers saying, I'm not interested in this anymore. I don't know, but yeah, I think he'll be somebody that they'll try and improve on in January. But the strength and depth's brilliant. And I think the only place that you can really say Celtic need to improve is that wide place because, okay, James Flores does well when he pops on the park, but I think if Maeda gets injured, I don't think Brendan Rodgers really trusts Palmer Michael, so I think that's somebody that he'll be trying to move on in January and bring somebody else in.
I think as well, if you look at Celtic, it wasn't that long ago that folk thought, oh, do you know, we've just lost Matt O'Reilly. How do we replace him? And I think the next player to go for big money from Celtic will be Nicholas Kuhn. Now, whether you get as much money as you did for O'Reilly, you possibly might actually get more because I think Nicholas Kuhn's been fantastic. He maybe wasn't great first half yesterday. I thought Penrith did well against them. But that finish, I mean, it just goes to show how good a season he's been. And I think he will be the next big player that goes for big money.
I know, Reegan, I was speaking to a lot of Celtic fans when a couple of weeks ago as well, but when you look at the team now and you look at the system Rodgers is playing Alastair as well, did you really miss Matt O'Reilly?
I don't think so. I've not been impressed with Engels the last few weeks ago, to be honest, guys. I think Bernardo's probably a better player than him, but it just shows you the strength and depth Celtic have got. Like I said to Alistair 5 minutes ago, I think the big thing for Celtic now is they'll probably get the league tied up and then they can focus on European football. Because I think, even though it wasn't mentioned, it's still something that I see. You know, it's still a black mark on Celtic's book that they've not won a match in European football after Christmas since 2003-04 season. I think that's a bit of a disgrace for a team like Celtic to be doing that because if you look at some of the teams that they've been playing, you wouldn't say that they wouldn't be able to beat them. You know, I remember them playing Cluj, Ferencvaros, people like that. They struggled to beat teams like that. So you want to see Celtic make a mark in Europe, and I think I read last night the further that Celtic go in Europe, that every Scottish club gets £1 million, I think it is. So I think that it would just be great for Scottish football to see us hopefully trying to get Rangers and Celtic both doing really well in European football.
It's going well for Scotland so far in the rugby, believe it or not. Australia must get caught cold. It's now Scotland 27, Australia 6 in the international game at Murrayfield as well. Alastair, it must be frightening for like Sir Johnson and other teams of other supporters looking on. As I say, Hearts, Celtic won at the races, Hearts being 2-0 up at half time. And then Celtic just went into kind of like, I don't think Celtic went into third gear in the second half. You know, I think they were quite comfortable.
Yeah, I mean the last, the goals coming in towards the end obviously put the sort of icing on the cake, and Critchley said it wasn't a 4-1 game. Splitting hairs, it was probably a 3-1 game at least. It wasn't more than that, but it could have been more than that. But then we're starting to sound like Clement and saying, you should have had all these goals because we had all these chances, and chances don't equate to goals. Kuhn's strike was amazing. I mean, everyone says keepers shouldn't get beat at the near post. I mean, there was no way any goalkeeper on earth was stopping that. I mean, he couldn't have put it better if he'd tried, and it was going like a rocket. I've got a picture here to my left of him actually kicking the ball, and you're probably too young, all you guys, to remember Peter Lorimer. No. Peter Lorimer, blank faces all around. Go and Google him. Peter Lorimer played for Scotland quite a lot. He was a winger for Leeds back in the heyday. He had one of the hardest shots around. It was that kind of thing. It's the kind of thing when the goalkeeper is actually still diving and the ball's actually coming back out the net. So with that kind of quality, as everyone said, that it's not going to change. So for clubs like mine, for basically for any other club, including Aberdeen. Aberdeen got tonked 6-0 in the semi-final. If you get Celtic on form, you're going to get thrashed. You absolutely are. It'd be like playing one of the top. Well, it'd be like let me put it like this: it'd be like a first division team in England playing Aston Villa or Liverpool. Well, having said that, I know it's Liverpool are losing to Southampton just now, which is a wee bit of a shock.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. It's 2. Okay, right. Well, in that case, James on the feed here needs to keep up to date, because the last thing I've seen here it says 2-1 at Southampton. I don't know what Graham thinks on this, but I don't see any end in sight of this, because while I agree with Reegan that any rational, and by that I mean unbiased, Scottish fan wants Scottish clubs to do well in Europe, obviously it means they get more money. Okay, some of that trickles down, but in relative terms it's peanuts. So actually all Celtic are doing are getting further and further ahead, and I'm not sure where that ends. Now, it will end at some stage. The one thing, if I was a Celtic fan, I'd be worried about is whether Brendan Rodgers eventually decides, you know what, I've had enough of this, it's too easy, I'll take the West Ham job.
Well, we did see him play at a press conference. One of the questions was asking, he says, "What did you say, guys?" And somebody said 3 years, and they said, "Yeah, exactly. I'm here for 3 years, and then I'll decide what I'm up to." Because obviously, all in all, he's been here at Celtic for 6 years as well. So yeah, I mean, it is a kind of like frightening thing, but another frightening thing before we move on, because I know Graham's in pain when I'm talking about this game, or maybe he's not get the heat on, I'm not sure. About the subs as well, Reegan, we always speak about the subs now. Ida came on the park last night, scored a penalty last night to make up for the penalty missed last season at Tynecastle, and he scored another goal as well. But the Celtic fans have a bit of humble pie on their face as well, because I remember when Ida came in, they said, "Oh, who's he?" and all that. You know, he played for Norwich City, and you know he's not very good enough to play for Celtic. And hey, what do you know? He scored. He came on at Ibrox. He came on at Easter Road. You know, he scored in kind of big games in Scotland as well.
Michael, I never understand people that are criticising Ida, because he's a second choice striker, but in Brendan Rodgers' eyes, every big game that he's come on, he's done really well. Even the game in Atalanta, like me and you've been saying, maybe that was what happened in Dortmund. You know, Kyogo played that game and it was 7-1. Maybe he needed a kind of a player to kind of mix it up the same way that Scotland did against Poland last week, when they put the Dykes on instead of Conway. So I think it's all about trying to make sure that he's valued. And like you said, he scored in big matches, scored against Rangers. So I don't think there's much more he can do. I did see somebody on a different show saying that he's hopeless. You know what I mean? If I had been this hopeless, then I don't know why he's watching, because he always seems to score in the big matches. So I don't think you can really ask for much more than that.
See as well, just as well on last night as well. See that whole thing about the assistant and that having to come on. I mean, that was ridiculous. How long that took? That should never have taken that long.
I mean, I put in the group chat, Graham, that it's an embarrassment to Scottish football. I mean, people from down south or over the world must be watching that and going, "What the hell is Scottish football?" It was just.
But even makes it was Alastair that it was coming out and then they forgot something.
Got to go back in again. I mean, the whole thing was a farce. I mean, apart from the fact it looked like he had an embarrassing accident on the way up the tunnel.
That's what I thought.
Which didn't help. Now, tell me if I'm wrong here, because I was watching this and I didn't quite. Basically, it was the fourth official, wasn't it, who went because the linesman had strained the muscle or something or whatever. Yeah. So all I can think of to be generous is that you couldn't find a pair of shorts to fit or something. I don't know. But these guys come with a kit anyway, so I don't know. You know what? It wasn't the end of the world. It was a bit embarrassing, but I can think of worse things that have happened in games. It provided, let's be honest, it gave us a bit of a laugh, which is not something you can say about referees every day.
The Aussies are coming back in the game. Scotland 27, Australia 13 in that one as well. Yeah, Graham, I mean, it's just a complete joke as well in Scottish football. But I mean, you were saying that the 4th official would have his shorts underneath his trousers as well before he, because he's got to warm up as well before the game.
So. Honestly, there was like 3 minutes left. Could the guy not have managed to do like the last 3 minutes? It just seemed a bit of a farce. I mean, it was good for me because it meant I had a break from not having to watch Hearts yesterday. But yeah, it was a bit of a bit of trouble, to be honest.
Yeah,
I sympathise with my sort of sympathetic to match officials hat on, because I mean the guy's getting abused for the whole game, right? And then he gets even more for not being able to change.
And they still get booed at Alastair when they came out.
He did. I mean, there's some brilliant stories about linesmen, and we were playing Dundee once way back in the day when Billy Dodds was playing for Saints, and no, tell I was at Dundee at the time, I think, and somebody threw a pie at him. He was taking a throw in, somebody threw a pie at him, and they came and complained to the Saints general manager that time. He was a mate of mine, and he was told he was lucky it was only a pie.
See just one more thing as well. Something I didn't like yesterday when he came on, Kenny Vargas got booed. Now, I know he got booed because of what he said in the media, but I don't agree with that. The lad is a young laddie. I didn't agree with what he said about wanting to move and stuff, but you don't boo the guy. He's 22. He's made an error of judgment in his comments. I think booing him was an absolute joke. And if you did boo him as a Hearts fan, you're an idiot.
Well, I suppose the bottom line, I would say, obviously I would come let the guys in a minute. But if you boo your own player, you're not a real supporter, Graham.
No, not at all. I mean, I didn't agree with what he said. It was misinformed. I don't think he realised that it would get back to Tynecastle and get back to Hearts. But you don't boo your own team. You don't boo your own player. You might not like somebody, but you don't boo them when they come on the park. I thought it wasn't a lot. It was a minority. But still, you just don't do it. He's going to have to learn lessons. He's going to have to buckle down. But you just don't boo the guy. I thought it was ridiculous.
Okay, let's move on to the game. Ibrox between Rangers and Dundee United. Rangers won, Dundee United won. This took Dundee United 2 hours to come down the motorway, Alastair. And I think, to be honest with you, I think the next time they come down to Glasgow, they were hoping for snow as well, because am I right in saying that they only had about 25 minutes to warm up because it was a very tight time as well, you know. But yeah, so Jim Goodwin, I mean, I said in a Friday show, Alastair, I said it as pre-presser on first that they're going to win the game. Well, they never won the game, but they get a point.
Yeah, I think it took them about 4 or 5 hours. I think about 2 hours to get to Perth, which is normally less than half an hour. And I'm not surprised, having seen the state of the roads. It's funny because nowadays I think clubs by and large like 90 minutes or so at least. I mean, they are all fit and they obviously will have been able to warm up. However, it didn't do them any harm. So from that perspective, would they do it again in the future? I doubt it very much. But I think more at the point, if you look at the game itself, and I think when I've been on this show, there's been regular conversations about Rangers, and I've got friends who are Rangers fans and Celtic fans, and the Rangers fans basically say, just not good enough. And if you're a Rangers fan, that sums it up, just not good enough. And United took advantage of that. Their keeper was very good, made a stupendous save at the end. Absolutely, save of the weekend, probably save of the month, to keep them in it. But Rangers had lots of, again, it's typical Clement stuff. You can go on and say, look, we had all these chances we should have won. Yeah, but you didn't take them. You can point to any stat you like. We've talked about this on the show before. You can look at the Aberdeen St Mirren game, which we'll come on to. Aberdeen had over 70% possession. They got beat. So the only stat that matters at the end of the day is the final score. And Rangers, again, weren't good enough. United were good. I don't agree with Jim Goodwin's analysis of the game afterwards, but then again, most managers after the game are completely deranged and obviously haven't seen the same game as everybody else. But United were worth a point. They hung on, they got their luck, which you need against the big clubs, and they deserved the win, the draw.
Reegan, I saw the highlights yesterday, and I thought Rangers were the better team. They had better chances as well. I mean, I think if Rangers didn't have Cherny, they would be in big, soapy snowball. Not soapy water after yesterday's game, but it must be a concern because obviously I'm going to go back to what me and Graham's been saying for God knows how long on the show. But if you ask a Rangers fan, right, and coming out Ibrox Skigum yesterday or whenever it is, when was the last time Rangers fans were saying, I'm dying to go back next week? They played well for 90 minutes because you can't. Obviously, you can obviously you can point to the Ross County game and all the rest, but I mean, to be fair, no disrespect to Ross County, but teams like Rangers should be beating Ross County, especially at home, as well. Where do you stand on that one, Reegan?
I watched a bit of the Rangers game yesterday. I just think they're very lacklustre. And people can say, well, Dundee United only had one shot on target, I think it was. But it doesn't matter. They still finished the game 1-1. And I think Rangers have just got a lack of quality. I mean, you spoke there about Cherny. I said to you guys about 2 years ago, after the European final, I said, I think it's time that Rangers sell Tavernier because it'll be peak value. It can show the Rangers fans that he's done very well and they can be happy. But that's not been what's actually happened. Now Tavernier is on the bench. And I know the manager can talk about, it's because he's resting him because he's played a lot of minutes. It's not because of that. If Tavernier was playing well, he'd be playing. It's because obviously maybe the attitude's not the same as it was previously, or maybe he's just not got the same drive to be a Rangers player. And I think that's where the manager needs to go right well. At the start of the season, go right well. Surely we can reinvest some money and try and get somebody else in, because I just find it crazy. I mean, if you look at the players that Rangers have sold over the summer, Todd Cantwell and John Lindstrom, for example, right? Now, if you look at Celtic, they've sold players for a profit. Aberdeen have sold players for a profit. And then you look at two valuable assets from Rangers. Todd Cantwell, okay, he's not done really well last season, but the season before that he was great and he was playing really well in Europe. And then I think he had a fallout with the manager, and then he's no. But then Rangers sell him for absolutely nothing. Same with John Lindstrom, they sell him for nothing. And then the first game of the season, and Graham will know this, the Rangers manager goes on the telly and says, "Oh, Rangers didn't win the game because John Lindstrom wasn't on the park." But you wanted to sell him. You wanted to sell him at the beginning of the season, in the first game of the season starts, and you're saying, "Oh, we didn't win the game because we're missing John Lindstrom." And I think the manager's just starting to talk absolute nonsense now. He's talking yesterday about if we can play the way that we played in the second half for the rest of the season, we'll pick up a lot of points. But, I mean, Rangers are playing St Johnstone next week. And I don't know what Alastair thinks, but I think this will be a time where St Johnstone will fancy their chances. St Johnstone are playing okay right now. And this surely is the peak time where St Johnstone fans can go in and go, right, well, I think we could possibly get a point here or even a victory. And the big thing for me as well is, if you look at the centre backs from last year, they sold two of them and they brought in Proper. I mean, that guy Proper looks as if he's not a proper player anyway. It just seems as if he's not very good, and that's what's making Rangers be as far behind as they are?
Alistair?
Well, I think we can beat? Yeah, of course we can beat Rangers next week. Will we? I suspect the bookies have got them as fairly strong favourites, and the bookies usually are the kind of people who can change a car when the ashtrays no one get full up. There's a reason for that, So I think getting Rangers or Celtic at what is he quotes bad time for them is always, in my view, a bit worrying, because the players think, this is a good time to play them. But of course, the guys who are coming into the Rangers or the Celtic or whoever team, they're absolutely determined to go and try and bust the gut to show they should be in the team. I would rather place Rangers or Celtic at full strength and actually get them all having a bad day, because players do have bad days. And for any club, any other club in the Premier Division, if you're going to beat Celtic, you've got to get basically half the Celtic team having an off day. You've got to get really lucky with shots hitting the post. You've got to have one or two decisions go your way, the referee. And as Graham said at the start, talking about the Hearts game, you've got to take your chances. That applies currently at Rangers, but not to the same extent, because the mood in the Rangers fans just now, as far as I can see, is that if you were, let's say it was the Liverpool-Southampton game today, so Rangers go 1-up, they get pegged back to 2-1 down, the mood's going to totally change, and the pressure on the Rangers players must be immense. Really must be. And at that point, then you think you've got a chance if you can hang on and keep the game tight. So don't get me wrong, I'll be delighted if we can beat Rangers. Will we? Don't know. 12 o'clock on a Sunday. Hopefully the weather will be all right. It means I've got to get up slightly earlier, but never mind. Season I couldn't get the game this weekend. I'm definitely going to go next weekend. I just think what we've said all along through this show is right. Celtic are going to win the league at a canter. Rangers quite probably will not even be second. I think Aberdeen are not going to obviously do as well as they were doing at the start, but they're still a very good team. We're playing them actually, I think, after Rangers, so that's not particularly good from our perspective at Pittodrie. I do think that actually what's happening in the rest of the league is now more interesting. Celtic have got it won. Who's going to get relegated? Who's going to get the European places? That's the stuff that's of interest.
Graham, I was just going to say we'll touch upon Rangers in a minute as well, but I mean you've got to give massive credit to Dundee United, because obviously that gets just coming down the motorway as Gigi from Dundee. I think that the kickoff was delayed by, was it 3:45, 4 o'clock? And they had a quick warm up, and obviously Rangers had the better chances of the game. But as Reegan said, you only take one shot at goal and you score, and that's a defining factor of the game, and they've done that.
I said on Friday, would not be surprised if United took something from my box because of the way the Rangers are playing. And I felt they had to score first, and they did that. Sam Dalby was in great form, and he was well onside as well. There was no debate about that. And I just think that United, maybe could have got 3 points yesterday, but a point at Ibrox is not a disaster. Jim Goodwin set his side up very well. They were really, really dangerous going forward, and they did what most teams do at Rangers just now, and that is frustrate them. And that Rangers crowd does not take a lot of frustrating. They were very angry yesterday, first half, as Liverpool just go 3-2 up. Get in there. At least one of my teams can maybe win this weekend. But anyway, I mean, I thought United were very, very good. I said it on Friday. They've probably, for me, been the surprise package this season. I think they're sitting fourth in the league. They've had a very good season, and it's a big, big result for them. They will take massive confidence from that. I would not be surprised if United were to finish in that, top 4, top 5 bracket the way they're playing just now. And you have to give massive credit to Jim Goodwin. Said it on Friday. He's done a very, very good job this season, and he's got players playing for him. He's got a striker in Dalby that's scoring goals. It's a big result from yesterday. He'll be disappointed not to take 3 points, but a point in Glasgow is never a bad thing.
Final score from Murrayfield gang. It's good news for Scotland. We beat Australia today. The final score was Scotland 27, the Aussies 13. So we sent them home to think again. I thought I couldn't resist that as well. But as for Rangers, Alastair, I was telling you quickly before we come on air that Rangers, according to the Rangers review website, Rangers are expected to name former interim Man United chief executive Patrick Stewart. No, not that one. As the new chief executive. And I suppose I'll discuss things like that, kind of like off the park, doesn't help Rangers as well, because obviously they can't get a chief executive, they can't get a Skiggan Reggie for the beginning of the season and all the rest of it. Things are not going according to plan, but also they've got a cup final coming up in 3 weeks' time against Celtic.
Yeah, I think that phrase you used there, things are not going according to plan, sums it up. These things happen. I mean, football clubs are businesses. Businesses go through periods of up and down. They have plans and projects, might be building plans like the redevelopment of Ibrox, well, not the redevelopment, but the improvements for the disabled fans. And, things just don't work out. So I accept those things go on. The problem is, of course, that unlike ordinary businesses, Rangers have got 50,000 people who can turn up at Ibrox plus thousands across the world who get very upset about this kind of stuff because, to go back to a phrase that's been used several times in the show, they expect to win. They expect to beat everybody they play, and especially they expect to beat Celtic. I don't think there'll be anybody on this show, and there won't be many people watching apart from maybe diehard Rangers fans who think that that's likely in the League Cup final. Celtic will be the massive favourites, and it would be a major shock if Rangers were to win. And that's an indication of how far the gap is between those two clubs. If you look at Aberdeen in the semi-final, Aberdeen, the same points, haven't lost the game, and they got hammered.
I think a good point was made on Sky yesterday in terms of, when Brendan Rodgers was brought back in, the music you were getting from Ibrox was Michael Beale was coming in, things were going to get tested. Celtic need to get a very good manager to stop Michael Beale. You know what I mean? But now things have just completely changed. It just shows you it's okay like having a little bit of money, but you need to spend it well as well.
Yeah, no, you absolutely do. And I think the manager makes a big difference. That's how, I was talking before about, will Brendan Rodgers stay at Celtic much longer? If you get the wrong manager in after that, it could easily, look at even Pep Guardiola seems to be falling apart. And with respect to Brendan, he's not quite in that league. That applies to all sorts of clubs. I mean, dare I use the words Craig Levine? You get the wrong person in and look what happens. So I feel for my Rangers supporting friends because they obviously are annoyed because they're not punching at the level they think they should. But as I've said on the show before, I cannot see a short-term solution to it. Partly because they can't afford, I suspect, to bin the manager. As you said, Michael, they haven't got the infrastructure above. They're looking to try and sort that out and get the actual board all sorted out. But even then, that's going to take time. If you haven't got the money, where are you going to get the players? If you've then got a manager who identifies the wrong players, nothing changes. So, you look at the players Celtic have brought in, they've improved the team. We talked about Matt O'Reilly not being there, not being noticed. I think it's really, really hard for Rangers. I would love to see, and I don't care who it is, whether it's Aberdeen, Rangers, Hearts, or whoever. I'd like to see Scottish football have 3 or 4 teams challenging. Now that's virtually never happened, but it would be great if it could, because it would again transform our game. It would also, by the way, increase the amount of interest in it from the TV companies, because you then get them more interested in getting more good games on. Just now, all they're interested in are the games between Rangers and Celtic.
I don't know what's more surprising, Rangers' demise or the fact that Reagan's just said that someone on Sky made a good point. But I mean, I think if you actually look at Rangers, I mean, it just goes back to the fact that I don't understand why they gave Clement that new contract when he's done nothing to earn it. And you made a point earlier, Michael. I was going to say this as well. The only real creative spark they've got is Czerny. He's the only one that's actually showing anything. They've got nothing else apart from that. Yesterday, Tavernier was on the bench. Now, a lot of Rangers fans were quite happy with that. Sterling played. Made no difference. They do not have a creative spark. You look at that Celtic team, you've got 6 or 7 players who can hurt you. That Rangers team you're looking at, if you stop Czerny, you stop Rangers because they've got nothing else.
I'm going to make a statement on the show today, the 23rd of November. I think the only way that Rangers can win the final is if Celtic gets someone sent off. That, for me, that's the only way that Rangers can win. If Celtic go down to 10 men, because I just feel Celtic have got the options there to change the match. And like Graham was saying there, I don't think Rangers have got that. I mean, look at the guy that Rangers bring on when Desmond was not doing well. He's not played for about, it seems like a year, and then there was all these talk about, well, if Rangers if he plays a certain amount of game, then it'll cost Rangers over £2 million because he always gets injured all the time. So I mean, they've got so many problems at the moment. But they've got a big match in European football on Thursday night, which will be excellent, Michael.
And like I was going to say, do you think it's going to kind of take a bit of comfort? Because I remember, was it Van Bronckhorst or Beale? I think when Rangers went to McDermott Park, St Johnson beat them, was it 2-1? And then the next week, Aberdeen beat them at Ibrox.
Yeah, James Brown scored that absolutely stunning only goal he scored for us, I think. And to be fair, he only going to score one goal.
I bet that felt good for James Brown.
Okay. I thought it was only Michael who did the rubbish joke. Sorry. Sorry, I've lost my thread. Yeah, I've said this before. Yeah, I would love us to beat Rangers. Will we? Probably not. Our statistics on our games against Rangers, 15% success rate. As I said, the bookies tend not to be wrong. I'll tell you what's more interesting. I just looked up the top scorers in the Premier, and Czerny's third, depending on how you actually do the rankings. First two are Celtic players, then there's Czerny, then there's another Celtic player, McGregor, then there's Kimpioka. There's no other Rangers player till you're down about the 12th or the 13th, and that's Dessers. Even we've got somebody else, we've got Nicky Clark, higher than that. So there's another problem for Rangers. They've not got enough people scoring goals, because normally you expect them to be, given the amount of possession they have, they should be scoring more goals than they are. And then when you look at the way the defence parted like the proverbial Red Sea for that header from Dalby, it was just, that was shocking defending. If it was Hearts, if it was my team, if it was Celtic, it was Aberdeen, you'd be raging at that defending.
It's difficult to score goals when you don't get penalties every week.
Are you suggesting that there was possibly some correlation between Rangers and penalties, Graham?
Not at all. I'm just saying they're not scoring a lot of goals, and I wonder why that might be.
Dundee United, actually, guys, obviously, we spoke about them on the show on the Friday, and all credit to them. They went to Ibrox, picked up a point yesterday. But also, they've made a good start to the season. I think that they've only had one disappointing result, and that was away to, was it Motherwell in the quarterfinals of the League Cup? Apart from that, they've been doing very well.
They've been very good, and I've been a big fan of Jim Goodwin, especially after that kind of moment against Darvo. And I always remember him getting me 6-0. And Edinburgh, I remember him walking with that bag. I mean, that must have been a terrible time for him, and he's bounced back really well. And fair play to him, because he's got a brand new contract at Dundee United as well. So, no, I think he's proved that he's a very good manager.
I think recruitment is, I mean, we talk about recruitment all the time. I think getting recruitment right is a massive thing, and he's got that right United. He's brought in some really good players. I mean, I keep going back to the guy Sam Dalby up front. He's really banging them in just now. Recruitment's been so important, and Jim Goodwin's pretty much got everything right so far.
Yeah, Alastair, I know it's your neighbours and all that. And well, I'm going to ask you, because we had the debate on the show a few years ago, but I think I'm right in saying, is this Johnson Dundee United, is that a derby game?
No, for us the Dundee game is the derby game. Dundee United is as well, but for us the big derby is Dundee. It'd be a bit like Celtic and Rangers saying, well, actually the derby's Partick Thistle or Queen's Park. It is a derby because obviously the proximity. As far as the Dundee clubs are concerned, it's not, because they just want to play each other. But there is absolutely no doubt that St Johnstone fans want to beat Dundee more than anybody else. And if they can't beat Dundee, then Celtic and Rangers will do, but Dundee United will be quite happy. If we can beat Dundee United, we would be very happy most days of the week. United have been up and down quite a lot recently. They've obviously been relegated. They've had some bad seasons. They've had some poor managers. I think they've got a good manager now. Historically, I think I've said this before, the team we should actually not like is Dundee United, because they're the team that got the place in the Scottish League in 1911 when we were expecting to get it. They'd only been going for 1 year and they get drafted into the Scottish League. You know, people talk about issues around about the governance of Scottish football nowadays. You think, well, how did that happen? Team is going for 1 year and he gets pushed straight into the second division without playing in any regional leagues. Anyway, I digress. So I don't think United are as good as some of you guys are making out. I think they're a good team, but I don't see anything. Are they getting better? Maybe I'm doing them an injustice. I didn't see, apart from the first game against Dundee when I thought they were excellent, I've seen their performances since then and they've got good results. Now, where are they going to finish in the league? I think they'll finish mid-table. I don't think they're going to be challenging for Europe. I think there are better teams. I think St Mirren on their day are better. Aberdeen Rangers clearly are better. I did think Kilmarnock were better, though I'm not sure about that now. So, yeah, I'm damning with faint praise. They are a good team. They're probably slightly better than us up to a point. If we get a chance to beat them, I'll be delighted. But, yeah, Dundee are the team you want to beat.
I was just going to say as well, we always talk about Alastair, like managers finding the fit by different clubs, and I know that Reegan was talking about Jim Goodwin taking the work out of Aberdeen and all that. But do you think he's actually found a level at Dundee United in terms of, you know, getting them into the Premiership first time of asking and going well in the league so far?
Yeah, I think he has. And what I don't know at United is what the underlying financial situation is. I think they obviously have had problems in the past there. So I'm not too sure how they're actually positioned just now. I seem to recollect hearing that there are some issues behind the scenes with their finances. I'm not certain in terms of making losses, is what I mean. They've made quite substantial losses, I believe, in the last season or two. So all these things are issues which affect all Scottish clubs. Just now, yeah, I think, as I said, they're going to finish mid-table. They'll be perfectly comfortable. They've got some good players. I agree entirely with Graham. The boy Dalby looks like a good bet up front. I mean, okay, he had loads of space, but he still had to be a very good goalkeeper, and he put it exactly where he had to put it. It was a brilliant header, nearly as good as Mackenzie Kirk's against Kilmarnock.
Yeah, so that kind of leads us on to the St Johnstone game. I think you're action to talk about. So yeah, one each eye box between Rangers and Dundee United. I know we say it every week, Reegan, but it's a big week for Rangers because they're away in Thursday night, and then Alastair will see them on Sunday against Johnson.
And he can tell us just what he thinks of them. But I think it'll be interesting to see how they react, because a lot of the Rangers fans are wanting the manager to be out. And I tend to agree with him now. I think he's talking nonsense sometimes. I don't think he's making sense. And but then the question that Graham said on Friday, who's actually going to make these choices? Because there's nobody there to make it.
Let's move on now to St Johnstone Kilmarnock game, and it was a shame that Alastair wasn't there to witness it yesterday. St Johnstone played well. Before we go on to talk about that game, I mentioned it on Friday, guys, but I mentioned it again. And Robbie mentioned about St Mirren. Fair play to St Johnstone because they had a food bank and a toy collection before the game. I don't know if you've heard anything, Alastair, if that went ahead, or maybe that never went ahead because of the weather. But I know St Johnstone, St Mirren had a food bank before the game yesterday as well. Incidentally, if you know of any clubs doing a food bank on a Friday night, let us know and we'll mention it on the show on Saturday, because it's brilliant to see. Right enough, I don't agree that there should be any food banks in the society to keep it in with. Let's leave that one then. Get back if it will. Brilliant to see St Johnstone had a food bank yesterday. First of all, Alastair, did it go ahead?
I honestly, I don't know. Actually, supposed to be on duty there, and I know the guys that run it. I would think it probably would have gone ahead. It's usually at the back of the Ormond stand, and it does. I know it does well. I mean, again, with my SFSA hat on, we make a point of actually sharing as much as we can on social. Well, it's mainly Twitter, to be honest, about this, because, and that applies to everybody, Rangers, Celtic, it doesn't matter. I agree with you entirely, Michael. We should not encourage people to come along and help people who need it. That's a good thing. So I'm not just saying this because it's my club, but my understanding is that they punch really, well above their weight in terms of the size of the club. That they do really well. I genuinely don't know whether there's one or not yesterday. The crowd was obviously very poor, as they were across all games in Scotland. So that will have had an impact on it. I really don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I would mention that before we get on to the game, because obviously we love our football on the show, but there's more important things in life than food poverty and toy poverty. Anyway, let's move on. So Johnson wanted to come out now, Alastair, and I quite enjoyed what we'll go on to speak about Kelly in a minute or two. But you were saying, I think it was last week on the show, that there's a different kind of system Valakari is playing.
Yeah, I think Valakari is very huge difference. I mean, the contrast between him and Craig Levine, it's like the contrast between the Reverend I Am Jolly and I'm trying to think Eric Morecambe. The positivity, the vitality that he brings to it. You can see his actions after the game. Before we talk about the game, I'm just going to mention very briefly. There was, I don't know if there was a minute's applause because I wasn't there, but you'll have seen the Saints team were wearing black armbands, and that was in memory of Kenny Aird, who was the outside right winger on the St Johnson team in the club's history. Not the greatest in terms of what they won, but they should have won something. I remember hearing Jim Craig, the Elizabeth Lion, saying that St Johnson team should have won something in about 200 odd games. That's really impressive for a winger. The fullback get past him, and I remember him telling me, because I spoke to him quite a lot with my historian's hat on. He said he used to get told by Orman, "You take on the winger because you're a better player than him. Once you've beaten him, the game changes." And you can see that. Yeah, I think I talked about that in relation to Ben Doak in the Scotland game. So that was important that stuff, because for most of the fans there yesterday, they won't have a clue who he was. The other thing I'd like to say about the game is that, and again, you may have seen this, but in the 72nd minute, did anybody see this? The applause for Donny McPhee? No. Donny McPhee is a Saints fan who died just a week or two ago. He was in his 90s. He'd had a season ticket for 72 years. And his son, Davy McPhee, who I've met once or twice, a lovely guy. And Donny was one of these kind of guys who epitomised what was applause in the 72nd minute when it came up, which again I think is just a real, and the Kilmarnock fans I know joined in with it, which is just a really nice, respectful touch.
Yeah, no, it was good to see. And you were mentioning something as well, Alastair, separate to the game, that I didn't realise this, that you've got to apply to get a minute's silence. I didn't realise that you had to do that. That was
I didn't know that either. That came about because I was actually told by one of Orman's team by text on Friday night that Kenny had died. So I got in touch with the club because I obviously know the guys there. And I said, "Look, we all look at the AFL, see whether we can have a minute's applause." And I said, "What have you got to apply to get a minute's applause, a minute's silence?" He said, "Yeah, you do." I'm slightly surprised at that. I'd have thought you could have just gone, "Hang on a second, guys. If let's take Walter Smith, do you really have to go and apply for permission to have a minute's silence or a minute's applause?" Apparently you do.
And it's not even that. I think I'm not being funny, but somebody dies on a Friday and the game's on a Saturday. What? Obviously, you've moved that about.
I genuinely don't know. As I said, not being at the game, I don't even know if there was. I mean, I hope so, because I think it's for. You can't do it for every single player who's played for your club. But when you've got a guy, to put it again, Kenny, in context, we did a book on the greatest of all time, and we had Kenny in it. That's how good he was. Incidentally, we didn't have McCoist in it. McCoist was on the bench, but that's another story.
See when Pete, you guys remember this, but see when the Queen died, Hearts were playing Europe that night. Nobody knew what was happening because at half time they had that really bizarre minute silence where nobody knew what to do. That was one of the most knew what was going on.
Yeah, the gauge. What? Yeah. I know. To me, that you can't then because it's so weird.
I think that this is interview dominated, and then it's funny that he shot and he was a bar or something. The post. First half was pretty much from the team. He scored two. He come off. But he's obviously hampered, but he's got this list for two stuff. Nace and he's actually Ronaldo would score. It was a brilliant hit.
What and he isn't happy. I was glad to fully impressed with Kirk. You get this, it's a really good head score that was delayed because I think it's got something about go yesterday. And we have to come back. Start McKenzie is a natural finish. A lot of young laddies that maybe as natural as that, but he's a goal scorer.
Yeah, I mean, Sedeville he's not scored this season. Tell why he has, he would come on. But then and he's obviously lost his way a bit. He scored 5 goals. Scored 5 goals. We've got this is McKenzie Cup. He's been my yard the week the violent. He's busted that thing. just
I think the new manager
business got it starts he might, if he was on today, Cleland Sanders appears to be a better footballer than Jackson. The usual sort of Smith was the Hearts to the Sherrills media, but I'm sure they'll be looking to see him back.
Better than him. I wouldn't mind having that Hearts team. Don't think he'd let me come back.
I think playing a lot because he's been playing alongside it. It hasn't been great, clean sheet with it like well because he player there and he is a bit got all the physical. If you can find the right player by that can take players a long way further forward. Particularly centre backs. If you've got a centre back who is really experienced, really capable.
We spoke, Celtic can't again. Obviously, if Hearts going to take to win the game, because Brown and Tabara came in and you started to play well. Your first clean sheet yesterday. Would you rather kind of win ugly than playing well at the moment, just to get that confidence up a wee bit, Alastair?
I would. Would I rather win? Yeah, absolutely. I think there's no doubt about that whatsoever. I really don't care how we win so long as it's more or less legal. Wrong. I totally like Kilmarnock when they're playing well. Going off on a wee aside here, as you know, I'm prone to do. It's interesting to see that Pep Guardiola is in the descendant now, and I wonder if Postecoglou, to bring in a sort of Scottish connection, might be, here's a far-fetched theory for you gents, the saviour of English football, because he's actually trying to play a system back and passing it back and passing it back.
Well, I watching the game yesterday, I actually thought about myself as Postecoglou auditioning to get the Man City job, because Pep just looks as if he's tired now. He just looks as if he's not enjoying it, and I don't know if it's like maybe because he's a very hard person to deal with. Maybe like because he's been there for what 10 years now, I think. So just pull him down. It was sort of like the club period, or like when you Lennon at Celtic. Sometimes people just get fed up with the same voice. Sometimes you need a kind of different voice to go in there.
I was going to say this. I actually think a big thing about Pep is, and this might be controversial, but I actually think it is because Klopp's gone. Because for the last few years, it's been a tight race between Klopp and Pep. Now Klopp's gone, he doesn't really have that. Listen, Arne Slot's coming, he's done all right. I honestly think that the fact that Klopp's gone is having an effect on Pep, because he's not really got that.
He's done all right.
He's not really had that. He's not really got that rivalry now.
Clear next week, 11 points clear.
I know, but he's not really got that rivalry now. But see if just on the point that Alastair made there, I actually think a lot of coaches now, especially young coaches, want to try and play it from the back. They want to try and play this passing style, which is fine if you've got players to do that. But a lot of teams in Scotland, apart from obviously Celtic, maybe don't have a players that can do that. You've got to try and play to your strengths. Stop trying to get players to play in a different way that they can't play. And in Scotland, it is very difficult to try and play that style unless you're Celtic. No other team in Scotland can play that way.
What's going on here? fireworks. Ooh, fireworks.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, I thought that was something else. Anyway,
It's because Reegan made a good point. There's fireworks going off.
Yeah, the film win tonight, folks. I thought Kamal Reagan. What's happened to them? Because obviously the last time out they get beat off
I
Celtic.
don't know what's happening. I don't know what's happening here.
Oh, right, okay. So
Is
maybe
there something happening in Glasgow for some reason? But
Maybe Philip Clement's been sacked, and that's Rangers fans letting off their fireworks.
yeah.
Not the 12th of July, is it?
And Australia, maybe, yeah.
it's still going. So I think Graham should talk for a minute and talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, Kilmarnock have been really up and down this season. I didn't think they had, and Alistair's right. I was watching the highlights last night. They had one shot on target. There was nothing really much else. They just didn't do enough. And I think the big worry that I would have if I'm a Kilmarnock fan, if I'm Derek McInnes, that 6 red cards this season. Liam Donnelly's been sent off on that 6 red cards. You don't give yourself any chance if you keep getting men sent off every week. So that's something they've got to get ironed out quickly. But I think they will bounce back. They've got a decent side there, but they're very, very patchy. They'll have one week where they're really good and another week really bad. They just kind of get inconsistency. But it's a big, big win yesterday for St Johnstone. But Kilmarnock, they cannot keep getting men sent off. 6 this season is ridiculous.
Liam Donnelly get sent off for Kilmarnock yesterday. Alastair, I think it was a red card. Well, it was a second yellow, wasn't it?
Second yellow, yeah. That's the second time he's been sent off this season. I think it was Ross County the first time.
Do you think there's a disciplinary kind of issue in Kilmarnock that Derek McInnes needs to be sorted out? Because you can't afford, especially away from home, playing with 10 men.
Well, it was only the last 6, it was 84th minute. But I mean, you could tell by McInnes's demeanour in his post-match interview that he was not pleased, having been booked. And yeah, you can quibble about whether the first one was a booking or not. Most people wouldn't disagree. He was pulling back Raymond. So from that point of view, yeah, yellow card. And he was just late. He wasn't trying to get the guy. He just, Dre Wright actually got the ball first and he kicked his leg. So it was one of these ones by which I don't actually see that much overt violence in Scottish football nowadays compared to what it used to be. And I know we'll come on to the Gogic thing later on, but by the laws as they are just now, it's a red card. And yeah, at that point, that's them lost the game. They've got no chance of coming back then, or virtually none, because they're on the back foot. So if you're a Kilmarnock fan, you've got to stop getting your players sent off. It's as simple as that.
Graham, I've got to talk to you about Derek McInnes. The rumours aren't going away that he's going to Ibrox, but it's back to what Alastair was saying before the programme, that Rangers gave what was that, 4-year deal, and 4-year deal. I think it was a 4-year deal. But if it keeps up the way that the Rangers fans will vote with their feet, especially if they get beat in the cup final. But Rangers has got a big issue on their hands, but at the same time, Derek McInnes' name will be linked to that job. And do you think the Kilmarnock fans will be worried because it might affect the games at the weekend?
I think there's more chance of Derek McInnes going, I'm a celebrity, than turn up at Ibrox, to be honest. I don't see it happening. I mean, I keep going back to the fact I do not understand why Rangers gave Kilmarnock a new contract. Like, what has he done to deserve that contract? I don't think, by the looks of it, I don't think Kilmarnock will last a lot longer, to be honest, the way things are going. But I don't think McInnes will go to Ibrox. He had the chance not long ago and he didn't take it. I don't think he really wants to go to Rangers just now. They're a bit of a basket cage just now. There's a lot of stuff off the park in terms of chief executive stuff that's not really going their way. I don't think McInnes wants that job just now. You want to be a settled club, a stable club like Kilmarnock.
I think he would go.
I don't see him going to Rangers anytime soon.
I think he would go now, because I think that if you listen to kind of other YouTube things over the past few weeks, supposedly Derek McInnes was so close to joining Rangers the first time.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know if you've seen it, Graham, but
Yeah.
someone in the media actually said that he was so close to joining the club, and they were talking about who to bring in, who to switch out. He was also picking the squads as well. So I think he would take it. And like Mike always makes a joke, that he's always at Ibrox for the European games as well. So he obviously enjoys watching the team. So
And I'm not being funny, but nothing to. I'm not going to say any more on the show about it. But there was more to that story than Derek McInnes joining Rangers. He was so close, but let's just say it was his backroom team that wasn't going to Ibrox. But anyway, let's move on. I think I said too much on that one.
Yeah, right here, just a quick one. Here's a question for you. Let's just give a scenario, right? Two scenarios here. Derek McInnes is offered Scotland or Rangers. What's he taking?
Scotland.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the problem is, you'll not go for the Scotland job.
No, but if he did, what would he take? He'd take the Scotland job.
Do you think Rangers fans would actually want him? And the Rangers fans I know, and okay, that's a small sample, don't want him.
I think they would now, because as much as they admit it, they won't want to admit it. I think now they know that they need someone that knows the Scottish football, because look at the director of football they've got. A guy that's been involved in German and Dutch football. That's not going to improve them. I mean, his recruitment's been awful. They brought in that proper, and he's not been a proper player. So you sit there and you think to yourself, I don't think that this new director of football would actually appoint him either, because he might want to go for a foreign manager as well. So it's just going to be interesting, because I think Derek McInnes, I mean, I've listened to Rangers fans this week saying, well, if we'd have beat this team, if we'd have beat that team, Derek McInnes knows how to beat all of the teams in Scotland. So I think he would be the obvious choice for them.
Good afternoon to Robbie Collins, watching the show on YouTube. Well, good timing, Robbie. We're moving on to speak about St Mirren in a minute. But yeah, that's an interesting one, because obviously I'm not going to disclose what I know about Derek McInnes not going to Ibrox, but I think that was assuring Alastair the first time around.
Yeah, and Reegan's comments about, all the work that he was doing beforehand. I know that when he first got into being a manager, which was at St Johnstone, obviously, one of the things which impressed Jeff Brown was the way, and he was on the playing staff at that time, remember, because he was a player manager originally. One of the things that impressed Jeff was the fact that he turned up with an analysis of all the players and who he wanted and who could go and all that kind of stuff. So he clearly was thinking even then about, the kind of things you need to do as a manager. He's clearly got an affiliation with Rangers. I think the likely scenario, depending on how Rangers results go in the next couple of weeks, I mean, in the unlikely event that we beat them, that'll put even more pressure. But the absolute game changer for Clement is the League Cup final. If he loses that, I think the torrents of abuse will, ramp up about tenfold. I can't see him staying.
I'll ask you a question then, Alistair. Right? What happens if St Johnstone beat Rangers next weekend? Do you think he stays, or do you think he goes?
It depends on the circumstances. I think if he falls even further behind Celtic, then irrespective of whether it's us or another game before the League Cup final, those are more nails in his coffin. I think the one thing which would be, I think Rangers fans could accept that if they could see, I think I'm not a Rangers fan, so I don't know, but if they could see some improvement. I'll give you an analogy. I've banged on and on about Craig Levein on this show. Craig Levein was a disaster for St Johnstone. Now, if you transpose that to the Rangers situation, you've got a manager there who's not actually improving the team. They're not getting better. They're actually getting worse in many respects, because they're not even second in the table anymore. So
I think in respect to Craig Levein, Alastair, I know that you're going to sing him a Christmas card and all that and say sorry to him, but to you think Craig Levein, and you might hate me for saying this, but St Johnstone took a big gamble there, Alastair, because he wasn't in the game for about 4 or 5 years, whereas Clement's been in the game over in Belgium, won the league as well. So that's a bit of a difference there because like Craig Levine's coming in from the cold basically.
Yeah, and in the same way that you don't really want to reveal your sources, being a good journalist on the Derek McInnes thing, I'm quite aware of the circumstances of how Craig Levine happened to be at St Johnstone. I don't really want to reveal those, other than maybe to say that it was the only person whose opinion counted at that time was the person who made the decision. So, as I said, the analogy there is you've got a manager who the fans are not happy with the style of football, they're not happy with the signings, they're not happy with the position in the league. And then you get the straw that breaks the camel's back. Now, it could be a number of things, I see Robbie's making the point, sack Beale for worse results. That's a fair point. And go back to Reagan's point, if Celtic go further ahead, Rangers go further behind, he's still got the chance to turn it around by winning the League Cup. If he beats Celtic in the League Cup, then he buys himself months and months of goodwill from the Rangers fans. Not months, but certainly a longer period. If he gets beat by them, the crescendo will be like the last Trump.
See, before we move on to talk about the Dundee and Hibs game, and I know Graham's definitely talk about the game. Alastair, Graham mentioned the point of flag United, and I didn't realise that. But apparently, St Johnstone is going to sell, was it 3 scans to Celtic from now on, just to get their finances back up. What do you make of that move for St Johnstone? Do you think it's a good move?
I'm not sure if it's quite 3 stands, but I know what you mean. The fact is, we did this before. Jeff Brown, who doesn't suffer anybody fools gladly or anything, way back in the day, round about probably Paul Sturrock's time, thinking about it, we used to give the East stand, the one opposite the main stand, to Celtic and Rangers. So they would have both ends and that, and you put all these stand season ticket holders in the West stand. So we had 1 stand. The difference is that if you do that, you make 75,000 quid extra, assuming you sell out. Now, 75 quid 4 times a season is quite a lot of money at a club like St Johnstone. So the fans went nuts when Jeff did it. And then, you know what, we actually won a couple of those games, so they didn't care, because as we all know, fans are fickle. You could be watching from a donkey, and if you beat Celtic or Rangers, then nobody cares. So I think the fans will complain, they'll go along with it. But the difference is this time, compared to the last time we did this with Rangers, the last time under Steve Brown's ownership, they basically just bounced it on the fans with no sort of forewarning. And as a result, fans boycotted the game. So there was an absolutely terrible crowd. This time they've actually spoken to the fans, said, we're thinking of doing this. Are you okay with it? We know it's going to be, you won't be okay with it, but here's the reasons why we're doing it. It's 75 grand. We need this money. We lost £1 million last year, £1 million the year before. We need to get the money back. So I think they've communicated it much, much better this time. And I don't have a massive problem with it because I understand the finances of it.
What do you make of the? I'll let the guys in a minute because I know that Graham and Reegan might have a comment to say on that. But what do you make of the cup game last season against Rangers, where the St Johnstone fans boycotted the game? And the reason I'm saying that, Alastair, is it's a cup game, it's a one-off game. Surely, to put it politely, that's your cup final of getting to the next round by beating Rangers. What do you make of the St Johnstone fans staying away that night, especially because it was on the TV as well?
Well, I think it was the fact it was on the TV made it easier to stay away, let's put it like that. I think also it reflected a degree of dissatisfaction with the chairman at the time, because there have been a number of things that had happened over the previous period, like selling Ali McCann at the last minute, which went down like a bag of cold sick. So I think a lot of that was a reflection of the owner of the club, the chairman of the club at the time. And I can understand why they did it. But they were not happy. They were not happy because they were bounced into it, no communication, and it was just like, this is another thing. So I don't know what Graham thinks on this. I'd be interested in your thoughts.
I'm probably going to repeat a lot of what I've said already, and at the risk of upsetting Alastair and St Johnstone fans on here, I do find it a little bit disappointing that you look at. I think McDermott Park's a cracking ground. Been there numerous times. It's a cracking little ground, and they're a family club. But after St Johnstone won those 2 cups, the Scottish Cup and League Cup, and they got Galatasaray in Europe, they had a great crowd for that Galatasaray game. if you can't get crowds back after winning 2 trophies and get European football, I don't know what else St Johnstone can do. I always think at this point when you see teams like Ross County, St Johnstone, that just don't have that fan base, you're looking pretty much most of the stands are empty. And I just think after the job that Callum Davidson did winning those 2 cups, I thought surely now St Johnstone fans will turn out, and they still don't turn out. I think that must be really disappointing. Like I said, I don't want to say any St Johnstone fans watching this, but I just think it must be really disappointing. And especially for St Johnstone, like St Johnstone chairman and stuff, it must be disappointing to think we cannot sell this ground out. So I can kind of understand why they may be giving Celtic Rangers fans 3 stands. But where are these St Johnstone fans that went to European game, that went to these cup finals? Where have they gone? Genuinely, it's disappointing, I think.
Well, I can answer that because what happened after winning, obviously the cups were during the pandemic, there were no fans there. The next season, we had the highest number of season ticket holders. I think the only one that was higher was the very first season at McDermott. So actually the fans did, put their money behind the club. The problem was, of course, is we then nearly got relegated. We were absolutely rubbish. And that had a good deal to do with it. I mean? If Hearts carry on, at the bottom of the table for the rest of the season, I can guarantee you the Hearts fans will stop going as well. So you're right, and I agree with you to that extent. There is an issue around the number of fans who might go to it. And if there's a cup final, you'll maybe take 15,000, which is a third of the population of Perth, more or less. But on a day-to-day basis, no, we don't attract enough. The new owner wants to get more in. He wants to do more American things to get people in, and he'll try and do that. Not sure whether it'll work. But in terms of the actual specifics of post the double win, we did actually have a huge upsurge in season ticket holders. Unsurprisingly, after nearly getting relegated, the next season they went way down again. So, and then we nearly got relegated again. So we're going to try and build it back up again, but we're never going to have a huge home support. We've got a good base round Perthshire because there's nobody else really apart from Dundee. And actually, if we do move ground, if we build a new stadium, sell McDermott for housing, make a mint out of that, build a 6,000, 7,000, 8,000, maybe like St Mirren, that's probably a more sensible thing. Better atmosphere.
I don't know the story, right? But I've always intrigued me how St Johnstone's Stadium is red and yellow and blue. How is it not just all blue?
Well, my accountant, who is one of the 2 loudest St Johnstone fans on the planet, wonders this as well quite regularly, including in letters to the club. There are quite a lot of St Johnstone fans who do take a somewhat negative view, shall we say, of the fact that it's red, yellow, and blue. I honestly don't know why. I don't know.
I've just never understood why. I just thought with you being involved in the club, you might have a better idea, but I've just never understood why.
It could be Jeff Brown's colourblind. I genuinely don't know.
Let's move on to talk about Dundee and Hibs. I'll come to Graham maybe last in this one. Alastair, I was watching the game last night and the Hibs got off to a fantastic start in the game. And then they had a wee 10 minute spell. Carden scored the goal. A wee 10 minute spell. And then Hibs got a man sent off. George DB, and then what was it doing in the first place? And then after that, I think the game was over. Yeah,
it's a great goal, brilliant goal. Tucked it away at the opposite corner, nearly as good as Mackenzie Kirk's. And then the boy overruns it. I tell you what's interesting about him. The other guy's thoughts on the sending off. If you look at the referee, I don't think he can see that. I wonder if the linesman's told him, because when you saw it back, it was clearly he was over the ball. It was, if his boy's foot was planted, it was a leg breaker. But the referee, I didn't think could actually see that from where he was, but he got the red card out nearly as quickly as John Bean.
Well, neither did Michael Stewart. He's got a camera. He didn't think it was the red card at first either until I saw it again.
Yeah. But no, and then after that, you're right, Michael, the game was over, and Dundee, it must be said, aided by possibly some of the worst goalkeeping I've seen for a long time, which I'm sure Graham will be able to tell us more about in some detail for about half an hour. They just capitulated. They capitulated, and Dundee hit the bar, and Dundee deserved to win by the 4 goals they scored. You know, I mean, they took advantage of the situation, and Hibs capitulated.
Graham, I know that Hibs fans would say, yeah, the game should have been cancelled, but I mean, we were watching the game on the telly. I don't think that game should have went ahead last night.
I'm glad it did, because it meant we were bottom after we beat by Celtic. Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of fog. You couldn't really see very well. It's happened before though at Dens Park, because we played at Dens Park a long time ago as well, and the conditions were brutal. We won 1-0, thankfully, it doesn't matter. But yeah, it wasn't great for folk watching on telly. But I mean, honestly, Hibs started really well. They were very, very impressive with that first 10 minutes. And then as soon as the red card happens, but what was the most, if I'm a Hibs fan and if I'm David Gray, what would be really annoying me is the fact that when Obita's getting sent off, Ellie Ewan's doing keepy-uppies. Now, why on earth, when
Yeah, I
you're
want to talk about that.
why are you not going over your manager or your teammates to say, right, what's happening here? What's the tactics? What we're going to do? You've got a guy like Ellie Ewan doing keepy-uppies when you've had a man sent off. That guy needs to get punted if that's me. He needs punted. He doesn't care. He doesn't want to be there. And then you've seen it numerous times over the years watching football where a team with 10 men actually is really hard to beat. Hibs weren't. They were so easy to break down. And I said it on Friday, and I'll say it again. That Hibs keeper is the worst keeper in this league. He is awful. And he actually had the cheek when he gave the goal away for the third goal to shout at his defender who gave him the ball in the first place when it was his mistake. Honestly, they look an absolute farce just now. And I don't even blame David Gray. He should never have got the job in the first place. It was too big for him. And if they keep David Gray, they're going to go down. They don't have enough quality. Fair play to Dundee. Very good win. But like I say, when you've got a man sent off and you've got one of your players doing keepy-uppies, you've got massive, massive issues.
Reegan, at the time, we said in the show that David Gray was a cheap option. I'm sure Graham said the only way that he got the job was because they won the Scottish Cup. Now, my argument with that is, right, you can be the best player ever and the top goal scorer for your team, but if you then be the manager and be a poor manager, then the supporters will forget about you being the best player. They'll just be remembered as the worst manager.
And then remember, it sort of reminds me of when Neil Lennon was during COVID. I mean, Neil Lennon spoke about, I can definitely turn that around. He was like 20 points behind Rangers. He's going, yeah, I can still turn that around. And I mean, it just became a bit laughable. I mean, somebody needs to take David Gray out of the situation. He's still saying he can turn it around, and I get that. He's never going to quit. But somebody needs to do it for to protect him. Because, like you said, he's going to be remembered for the guy that got his hometown club, his team relegated. You know, somebody needs to take him out of the situation.
But I think you play devil advocate, Alastair, and it's okay talking about the game after the game. But I mean, Jonathan Obika gets sent off. Never done any favours because Hibs were the better team up until that point.
Yeah, no, they were, and you don't know if he hadn't been sent off, would they have carried on? Would Dundee have come back? I mean, we don't know is the short answer. But one thing we do know is if they had 11 men, there's an awful lot better chance they might have actually got someone out of the game.
I think it's also something that they mentioned on the TV as well, Alistair, in terms of the culture that David Gray's in the dressing room. The fact that one of the players is doing some tricks on the side of the park, instead of talking to the coaching staff and saying, what are we actually doing? What's the plan here? How are we going to defend this lead? But he's not doing keepy-uppies. And the fact that nobody on that team, nobody on the coaching staff said anything to him, I think it was a disgrace as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've got to say he was quite impressive with the keepy-uppies, but that's not the point. That's not the point. Can you imagine Walter Smith or Jock Stein or somebody like that if somebody had done that? You know, their feet wouldn't touch the ground, would they? It would be throw him out, we want to see him bounce, you know?
Even Neil Lennon, I remember a famous one where Neil Lennon was arguing with Mikey Johnson at the side of the park. You know, because he told them that they were still fit to play. Then 2 minutes into the game, he got injured. So it's about being respectful to the club, you know.
You
And I said the same thing about Vargas on Friday night, and he's going to come out and say it was misinterpreted. And then Ellie might come out on Monday, Alistair, and say I was just doing a little bit of trickery before to keep myself warm. He might come out and say that, but it's also embarrassing for people that have paid £30 to go and watch him, and for him not to be taking on the instructions of his players are talking to the manager. He just thinks that's the best thing to do when your teammates just get sent off. No, I don't
About
think
that,
you can have all the ability. You can have all the ability in the world, but when you're in a relegation scrap, you need players that are going to fight for the badge. Ellie Ewan's not that player. He's a luxury. He's a luxury player, and you cannot afford that when you're in a relegation battle.
But is that not what we've been saying for weeks, Graham, on the show about football's not about football. Football's now a business. And if Eddie Ewan's doing that, he doesn't really care as well. Like people, it's actually like playing for the bags and all that. You know, he didn't really care if it was a red card or not. As Alastair was saying, he's just keeping himself warm. He's just looking after him, not his teammates.
Well, all you've got to do is look back at the first Dundee goal that Jordan McGee scores. He actually runs away from the ball. He goes the other way. I mean, what is he doing? Ellie Ewan is a luxury player. On his day, there is no doubt in his ability. But you're in a relegation scrap. You've got to fight and battle for everything. And Ellie Ewan is not that type of player. I think you have to give massive credit to Dundee, though, because like I said, it can be difficult against 10 men. They made it look pretty comfortable. Jordan McGee, what a finish for his first goal, by the way. It's a great finish. Dundee were very, very good, but Hibs are in a lot of trouble. And I think if they keep David Gray, it's sentimentality. Now, they said 2 weeks ago they gave him the dreaded vote of confidence.
But how long can
They've got Aberdeen on Tuesday. Aberdeen can win the floor with it.
How long can they go?
I reckon he'll probably get another 2 or 3 games. If they get beat by Aberdeen and get beat next week, he'll probably be away. But the problem is, who do they appoint? Because they've got a list of managers that they've sacked recently. What I think they'll probably end up doing is what I think they were going to do ages ago, and that's put Malcolm Mackay in place.
Yeah.
So, how many points are they behind St Johnstone? Or
not that many, actually. It's not that many. I'm not sure off the top of my head, but it's very tight at the bottom of the table. I tell you, I do feel sorry for to some extent, and that's partly because the Saints connection is Liam Craig, because Liam Craig left us to go to Hibs, missed out on winning the Scottish Cup in 2014 as a result, then gets relegated from Hibs. He obviously lost his job at St Johnstone again when he was on the coaching staff with Macca, goes to Queen's Park with Callum, and then he goes back to Hibs again. So that's not looking too good from that point of view. But I think you're right. They'll go for the easy option because obviously there's issues like Rangers, there's issues above the team in the management side. And in those circumstances, it's easy to go for, we've got somebody board, experienced manager, won't cost us any more money, let's just do it. And if
Hibs are 5 points behind St Johnstone.
Right.
Well, I would fancy St Johnstone more to beat Rangers than I would Hibs to beat Aberdeen.
Whereabouts is that game? Is that in Edinburgh?
It's like Easter Road, yeah.
It's on Tuesday. It's on Tuesday, so I'm looking forward to watching it.
Talk about Dundee. They've been a good team under Tony Docherty. I always speak about making that step up to first team football from assistant manager. Tony Doc's actually like a duck to water. He's handled it very well, and a decent result last night against Hibs. And okay, you can say about Hibs were the better team, they got man sent off, but Dundee still had to do a professional job. And I know, like Glenn was saying about Hibs has got the worst keeper, but Dundee, they'll not mind that. They'll say, 3 points is more important.
Yeah. Here's a thought for you. If Hibs do sack Gray, then Tony Dock to Easter Road.
I don't think this might just be recency bias, but I think if you look at Dundee, they're probably a better run club than Hibs.
Today, possibly, yes, not in the past. But I mean, I think Michael's right. I mean, Tony Dock's done a really, really good job at Dundee. My friends who are Dundee fans, including Stuart, who's the former chairman, and he was the chairman when they really were in trouble. He thinks, and he says his mates think as well, that Dundee are quite vulnerable at the back. So if Hibs actually had kept 11 men and built on that, then, you know, who knows? But once Hibs basically Hibsed it, it was over, you know. It's even me. This must be Graham's evil influence on me. Even I'm using derogatory terms about Hibs, which I apologise for to Mikey and any other fans who are watching this, because I've actually got other friends who are massive Hibbies as well. Anyway, I digress.
Okay, let's move on to talk about, because we've only got 10 minutes left. Let's speak about the game. I would say maybe the upset of the weekend. I don't know if you guys would agree with us, but in saying that, when I look at the statistics after the game, Aberdeen's not won at St Mirren since 2018, so I don't think it was really a kind of upset. But upset in terms of the way Jimmy Carlin has got Aberdeen playing well. St Mirren 1, Aberdeen St Mirren 2, Aberdeen 1, Alastair.
Well, we all know a St Mirren fan who's very happy about it. Aberdeen's run had to come to an end sometime, and I think on the day, obviously with the conditions being what they were, the game being held up, all those kind of things. You look at the statistics, and again, this is the point I made earlier, statistics don't matter a damn. 72%, 71% possession to Aberdeen, but the team that won had, you know, not even 30% possession. Just that, to my mind, sums up how Scottish football can be, because you've got a team who are really organised, really motivated, got some really skillful players, and they're on their home turf, and they probably deserve to win it in terms of the play. Okay, Aberdeen had much more possession, they had good chances, they had that amazing back heel at the very end, which if it got an equaliser, you'd have said, you know, deserves it for the audacity of it. But I think St Mirren deserves to win, and I think Aberdeen were bound to come a cropper sometime. So was it the shock of the day? I mean, in my view, any time St Johnstone wins, usually the shock of the day. So it's difficult to say, but I think the Aberdeen fans will not have expected to lose that. And having seen St Mirren batter us a few weeks ago in midweek, I'm not that surprised, because when they're on their game, they're a very, very good team.
I did say to Graham though on Friday, also that Aberdeen's not won in Paisley since 2017.
Right.
It's a long time, and probably some of those players have been there. Do you know? So
yeah, a different Aberdeen team now, because Aberdeen haven't been so good for quite a few years. But I think Aberdeen will bounce back against Hibs. I think St Mirren will carry on. I think St Mirren have got a better chance of finishing higher up the table than Dundee United. Unless they have some kind of disaster, because they've got enough balance and strength in their squad. I mean, the winning header, again, interested your guys' thoughts on this, because they showed you on the television, I think it was Tanzer, he basically put his hands on his shoulders, a bit like rugby line-out, where they actually push the guy up. I don't know what the laws are in relation to that. Can you use a teammate to help get off the ground? I have no idea.
Graham's St Mirren got off to a good start. Obika scored for St Mirren, and it was 9 minutes, I think it was. They got off to a good start, and then it just continued from then.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was Alessandro that scored, and he's the one that's maybe not signing a new contract, which I know that Robbie was disappointed about. I think he's a really good player. He's got pace, he's physical. And yeah, I thought for a long spells in that game, St Mirren were really good. But I will have to touch on a point about VAR. We mentioned VAR on Wednesday, the big VAR show we did. It's still up if you want to go watch it on YouTube. But that is where VAR does work, because that is never a red card. So fair play to VAR for getting that overturned. I don't even think it's a free kick. I think Gogic wins the ball quite cleanly. It's not even a foul to me. He gives him a yellow card. It's never a foul. But yeah, apparently Clement's gone.
Oh.
Robbie Collins has just messaged Phil is gone. So I'm assuming he means Philip Clement's been sacked. I don't know if that's definite, but
okay.
So yeah, it looks like if Reegan or somebody can check that, it looks like Philip Clement's gone. But yeah, I thought St Mirren were very good. Fair play to Aberdeen fought back. Really good finish from McGrath as well. But you could just tell that St Mirren really wanted that. And it's a brilliant header from Richard Taylor. He gets up so high to win that header. But yeah, great result for St Mirren. As Alistair said, it had to happen at some point. Aberdeen get beat. But yeah, it's a big, big result. Fair play to St Mirren and Robinson.
I think
I'm
kind of a look at the BBC website, and I can't see anything on the BBC website just now.
Yeah.
There's a big story about
I don't know if it's a rumour on social media, but I can't see it either. Kind of Alastair, but I mean we'll just go. I've lost my train of thought now. So a big win for St Mirren yesterday. I'm just keep looking for the story, but I don't see it at the moment, Alistair.
No, I don't either. I suspect it's been started by the Green Brigade, possibly. Or possibly by some disenchanted Rangers fans. You never know. Robbie's saying few journalists reporting it on Twitter, not confirmed yet. Not confirmed yet.
Yeah, big win for St Mirren, Alastair.
Yeah, and as I said before, they deserved it. As Graham said, they started well. Olasanya, it was interesting again on Sports Team last night with Scott Allen talking about how he'd had him at, was it Arbroath? I can't remember what he said. And, he thought he was going to be a good player. Nothing like he's become. He's the kind of player most other teams round about that sort of Premier League mid reaches would actually like to have in their team, because he's a goal scorer, he's a threat, he's physical, all those things which you want from players. And then the fact that Aberdeen got back into it, and you kind of thought Aberdeen would go on and win, but they didn't. And I thought it'd be a draw. And then you look at that header, as Graham said. I mean, yeah, he clearly uses, I think, his hands or shoulders to elevate himself, but he was as high above them as I've seen anybody for any striker or header of a ball. He seemed to be most above the crossbar. He was that high.
Okay, so I'm now getting things on social media that reports has Philip Clement has resigned from Rangers. I'm still waiting to get that confirmed. I'm just looking on my social media channels as well, Graham.
You'd not done this an hour ago. Would have made a lot more sense an hour ago. We were just about to finish.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. But
hang on for another week so we can have him in charge when we're playing them. They'll now go and get a manager, new manager bounce. We'll get gubbed.
They'll bring back Stephen Gerrard.
I don't.
Graham Murray. Graham Murray.
Or McCoist. I think McCoist would do it. I don't think he would. I think he's probably make too much money out of all the rest of it.
The dream team of Gary Neville and Ali McCoist.
Okay. I am.
All these St Mirren fans have to really hack talks. We're not actually talking about their great win over Aberdeen. We're talking about whether the Rangers manager's gone.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. While I look, Alastair and Grim is going to hold the fort for about a couple of minutes before I can get this news. So over to you guys. I know we're a bit pushed for time, but we'll just stay on for a few minutes.
Yeah, I mean, it was a massive win for St Mirren, and I think you've got to give credit to Robinson because it's a big, big job he's doing. And I said it in the show before, the fact they managed to get that game on was a massive testament to the St Mirren ground staff. Aberdeen will be gutted, obviously, but it's a big, big win for St Mirren, and fair play to them. Really, really important win for them.
Yeah, and the Aberdeen fans who do travel in numbers, let's face it, we know they really do. I mean, I do think I exchanged messages with somebody, actually. I'm not sure. It might be in the thread, actually. Beaton had to put that game on. If he hadn't, there'd have been a riot. I mean, there really would have been. And I think from that perspective, it was the right thing to do. Just to go back to the sending off, Graham, when you look at it, I mean, he absolutely launches himself at it. And I think that's what caused Beaton to get the red card out straight away. And I know people said, well, the linesman should have done something about it. My understanding is a lot of referees will actually tell the linesman, You just tell me when the ball's in and out of play. You don't do anything else. And I'm sure we've all seen similar situations like that. I've seen a game at St Mirren at Love Street where the linesman about 2 feet away from him, a St Mirren player, and it was a St Johnstone game. Let's just say one of them sustained an injury to a delicate place, right? Fell over clutching said delicate place. Linesman does nothing about it. Not a thing. And when I've spoken to people who are sort of that level linesmen, they say, well, that's because I'm told not to. Now, obviously, they can communicate nowadays, but that was one, if ever there was, never mind VAR, the guy gets on his thing and says, Mr. Beaton, that was perfectly okay, play on, throw in Aberdeen, get on with it. But he was too quick. He was too quick. And I think John Beaton's actually quite a good referee. You don't get to be a FIFA referee if you're not. It was a shockingly bad decision.
Aberdeen's next 2 games are now in Edinburgh. They play Hibs on Tuesday and they play Hearts next week. They've not won at Tynecastle since 2017. Hopefully that continues next week. But I think you're kind of right, Alastair, what you said earlier. I expect him to bounce back. But unfortunately, as I said before in the show, I do think Celtic will still win this league quite comfortably.
Yeah, I think we said that. I mean, bearing in mind that my prediction skills are so good that I had Hearts being third.
So did I.
So I think that no rational person is going to look at Scottish football just now and think that this is anything other than a cakewalk for Celtic for the next couple of seasons at least. There's only one thing which might affect them, and that's their finances if they have a big fine in relation to this court case which is pending in relation to the youth development and all that kind of stuff. But even then, that's not going to knock them off stride too much. I think the more important thing for Scottish football, actually, and we're going off on a wee tangent again while the guys try and find out the story, is actually how on earth do we improve this so we can get players coming up through the system? Because, and I know we've talked about this in previous weeks, the chart which showed the number of young players coming through is embarrassing.
Uh-huh.
Apart from Motherwell with Lennon Miller, it's embarrassing. And the other thing is that people are now talking about Celtic and Rangers maybe going to be bidding for him. Celtic have got much more money, unless he goes to England, which I think is what he might do. But if he wants to carry on playing football, he should probably go to Celtic, because I think you get a game there. He'd get much more profile, etc., etc., etc. You get a lot more money for a start. And then if he's good enough, English clubs will come and get him anyway. However, that just makes Celtic even more strong.
Well, there was obviously one we can't really go without talking about Ross County and Motherwell. Big win for Ross County yesterday, 2-1. I know that Stephen put in the group chat that was Motherwell's worst performance this season, but that's a big win for Ross County, who I still think might be in relegation trouble this season. Yeah,
I mean, with my biased hat on, I was kind of Ross County, one of the kind of teams you want to lose so that we can actually catch up on them, but they don't look like they're going to. They're going to win enough games. The problem is they can't win away. They're very strong at home. Away, I'm not sure exactly the record is, but it's probably best described as rubbish. The boy Hale clearly can score goals. He was quite fortuitous with the first because of the way it came through to him, but nonetheless, he stuck it away. And Ross County, I think, deserved to win. Was it Motherwell's worst performance this season? I don't know, because I've not seen them. Stephen's better placed than us to tell us that. But Ross County deserved to win it. And I think on that basis, you look at Ross County and think they're probably going to be okay this season if they can actually have that kind of home form. Where they go after that, who knows? So it looks like it's down to me now. Well, the rest of the guys are doing this. So I think we're at the stage of...
I think in terms of Ross County and Motherwell, I think Motherwell's had a very good start to the season. But I don't think yesterday's result will really harm them much, because I feel like they've had a very good start to the season. In terms of Ross County, I think that's the kind of result that they needed, because they've been playing well the last few weeks, but they've really struggled to win matches. And I think I've looked at Ross County's next 2 matches that they play away to Celtic and at home to Rangers. So that was the match yesterday, and Michael, that they had to win, because I'm not being disrespectful to them, but I think they can get at least a point out of that probably because I don't see them getting anything from Celtic Park. And if Rangers have got a new manager in town, then I don't see Ross County winning that match either.
Yeah, so just to confirm that the rumours going about, but it's not really confirmed yet about Philip coming out of a job as well. I've just saw a few stories on Twitter, but there you go. That's keyboard warriors for you. Might be confirmed. Look, we're running out of time, guys. Well, we have run out of time actually. Just to bring you up to speed. What's been happening today since we've been on? Scotland beat Australia 27-13 in the rugby. There was women's football this afternoon. Aberdeen 0, Hearts 2. Glenn will be happy about that. At least you won something this week, eh? Glasgow 36, Spartans 0, Hibs 1, Packet 51. I think Glenn will be happy about that as well. Final score, so the half time between Motherwell and Queen's Park. Motherwell is beating Queen's Park 3-0. Half time Rangers 3, Dundee United 1, and half time. No, it's not. 34 minutes going actually. Between Celtic and Montrose, it is 1 each. So Paul Donaldson says, you're still on? Yeah, because Alastair two-footed a tackle and we had to go to VAR. I'm sorry about that. But anyway, we will be, if Philip come on is out of a job, keep on the locker room social media. We'll keep you up to date on that one. We'll be back on Wednesday for the Celtic game on Thursday as well for the Rangers and Hearts games. Thanks to Alastair, thanks to Graham, thanks to Reegan, and most importantly, thanks to you commenting this afternoon on the show. And we'll see you next week, Kate, on the locker room.